the one right there.
I don't think it's 11 to 14 questions. That's enough.
All right, so starting recording here. I'm going to go through and work through the questions and answers for chapter 21, main review off of this one. We're going to start with number 11 because 1 through 10 were just definitions. We'll come back to those. Number 11, it says, what three actions demonstrated that Philip II of Spain saw himself as a defender of Catholicism? All right, so there's a couple different things that are here. They list three. One of them is he fought the Muslim Ottoman Empire. He sent the Armada against Protestant England, and he fought Protestantism in the Netherlands. So the overall idea is if you give one of the three examples off of that one, then that covers it. All right, so that he either fought against other religions that were not Catholicism, whether it be Protestant or whether it be Muslim. Those are going to be the two big deals to demonstrate that he was going to be a defender of Catholicism. All right, so fought against Muslim people in the Ottoman Empire, fought against the Armada from against Protestant England, or fought against the Protestantism in the Netherlands. So as long as there's one of those three, then you have that as the correct answer. Okay, number 12 says, according to French writer, should a prince share power with anyone else? Okay, and his big part was no, because if he does, he becomes another person's subject. All right, so if there's too many people in power, then that power is diminished. They become a subject to it. All right, so the answer to that one right there is no, because they would be controlled by someone else. All right, number 13. What strategies did Louis XIV use to control French nobility? It says he used intendants and forced nobles to live at Versailles. All right, so he forced them to be in a certain place, and then his ruling powers with the intendants is a big deal there. All right, number 15. What were 6 results? All right, so each one of these has a chance to be a point that's in there. It says to list 6 of them. So they got to have 6 total. What were 6 results of the Peace of Westphalia? All right. Number 1, it weakened Spain and Austria. Number 2, it strengthened France. They don't have to be in this order as long as they list them. Number 3, made German princes independent of the Holy Roman Empire. Ended religious wars in Europe. Introduced new methods of negotiating peace or independence. And established a modern state system. All right. And if I'll repeat those one more time to make sure, kind of get all of those. And so there's 6 opportunities. If they got 6 of them, they get full credit. If they only have 2 of them, it's -4. All right. So weakened Spain and Austria, strengthened France, made German princes independent of the Holy Roman Emperor, ended the religious war in Europe, introduced new methods of negotiating peace, and established the modern state system. All right, number 16. Why did Maria Theresa and Frederick the Great fight 2 wars against each other? This one's a pretty straightforward one. They're fighting over territory, land. They're fighting over territory or land. All right, number 17. What were three differences between Russia and Western Europe? All right, serfdom was a big deal. Said Russia's serfdom was firmly implanted, so serfdom was one big deal. Knowledge of the Renaissance. Russia did not have a very good knowledge of the idea of what the Renaissance was. And then the biggest thing was religion. Okay, so the western side of Europe was Catholicism. The eastern side, so Russia, was Eastern Orthodox. So religion. Number 18. It says, what was Peter the Great's primary goal for Russia? To westernize Russia so that the country could compete with its military and commercially with Western Europe. So kind of shorten that. Basically to compete with Europe with their military and with their economy. To compete with Europe with military and economy. Number 19, list the causes, participants, and the outcome of the English Civil War. So there were royalists, there were roundheads. Okay, you could also use them as cavaliers and Puritans. They fought over religion, money, and the king's power. So royalists and roundheads, also known as cavaliers and Puritans. They fought over religion, money, and the king's power. In the end, the Roundheads won because they took the head of Charles I. That was a common thing back then. When they say like heads will roll, that was what they actually meant, was that heads would roll. They would get chopped off, and that would be their form of corporal punishment. Number 20. How did Parliament try to limit the power of English monarchs? They didn't give them money. They refused to grant funds. So they didn't give them money. And when they didn't give them money, they kind of helped them get the idea of the Bill of Rights, signing over petition of rights. Once that money was denied, they had to kind of make a change. So denying money. Number 1 on critical thinking. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it asks you to, in the chart, list the actions that absolute monarchs took to increase their power. Then identify the monarchs who took these actions. So as long as they have the main idea about what they were doing, okay? If they list the person, that's even better. But as long as they have the main idea that was there. So they need to have something about controlling religion. Okay, if that box has something about controlling religion, that was their action. They controlled society. They controlled economy. So money. And then reduced power. So in the box where it says activity or actions of absolute rulers, religion, society, money, power. As long as they list 2 of those 4, then that's big. Number 2, what benefits might absolute monarchs hope to gain by increasing the country's territory? Kind of the same thing that we just looked at right there. Power, money, and prestige. Power, money, and prestige. Power, money, and prestige. All right, number 3. What conditions fostered the rise of absolute monarchs in Europe? Power became, instead of just a king, monarch, king, queen, it became centralized to where there's a lot more people in the mix. Okay. So power became centralized. The church losing some power was also a big deal. Okay, power became centralized. The church lost power. The king lost power. There's more people involved. Okay, number 4 says, compare the reign of Louis XIV with that of Peter the Great. Which ruler had a more lasting impact on the country? The idea that Peter the Great tried to make Russia more like Europe instead of just there. That's his big impact. Okay, Peter the Great tried to make Russia more like Europe. Louis XIV, he led to the French Revolution. That was the big part for him. He led to the French Revolution. And they did that. You don't have to write this part down, but they did that by literature and arts during that time. The idea of them expanding, opening up, then also the debt that was caused by that led to the French Revolution. They had to come back, try to make a rebound. It was so torn through that they had to rebound through with the French Revolution. Number 5, would Charles I have had a different fate if he had been king of another country in Western or Central Europe? Yes. That's the main answer to that one. Number 5, yes, he would have. Because if he wasn't there, his power wouldn't have been challenged. He would have been able to rule. It wasn't centralized, so therefore he was able to, he wouldn't have been challenged. They wouldn't have overthrown him. Wouldn't have been contested by anyone in his court or anybody of his people. So the answer to that one is yes. All right. 1, 2, and 3 on the back. On page 619. That's going to be letter A is number 1. Number 2 is G. Number 3 on the map question is A. All right, now let's look at the terms and names right there. Let's kind of go down the line right here, or raise your hand for me. And like number 1. Okay, Macy, you got number 1 written down on your other paper right there. Okay, can you read that one to me, please, ma'am? Okay, say it one more time. Perfect. There you go. All right. Castro, you got number 2 on yours? Okay, so tying the idea of representation in the government based upon God. They're divinely said this should be who it is. Okay, we talked about in some other, like manifest destiny, not manifest destiny, divine, the mandate of heaven. That's what I'm looking for, is mandate of heaven. Something that was mandated from God down, the same way that divine right is the idea down. Okay, Jaden, do you have number 3 on yours? Louis XIV. Okay, so just making understand that Louis XIV was king of France. Good. Benham, do you have number 4? Okay, very good. number 5. Wilson, you got number 5, 30 Years' War? Good. Glad it just didn't say a year that lasted 30 years. So that's good. The religious conflict, biggest thing there. All right, number 6, 7 Years' War. Who else has that one? Javian? Does yours have number 6 on it?
Conflict from 1756 to 1763, in which the forces of British and Russia battled Austria, France, Russia, and Russia.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Number 7, Peter the Great. You got it?
Peter Great, Russian Tsar, known for their reforms and attempts to establish Russia as a
Good. Czar is the big thing there. And I know it's CZAR, but that's the term essentially from Caesar, like Julius Caesar. And they just kind of conversion of that czar. So that's the one leader of, it's basically a dictator that's in that essence right there. Okay. The English Civil War. We talked a little bit about what the English Civil War was in number 19 when we talked about the idea of what were the conflicts of it based upon the royalists, the roundheads fighting over religion, money, and the extent of the king's power, what led to the beheading of Charles the First. All right. So that essentially answered number 8 whenever we answered number 19 right there. Number 9, Glorious Revolution. Got 2 left. We've got number 9 for me. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have anything different on number 9? Wilson, what do you got for number 9? Okay. So if I looked at 616 where it says the actual definition of it, said the bloodless overthrowing of King James II is called the Glorious Revolution. So if you look at it through the definition of the book wise itself, the bloodless overthrowing of King James II. All right, and number 10, constitutional monarchy. Number 10, constitutional monarchy. It says England had become a limited monarch or a constitutional monarchy. Laws limited the ruler's power. So there was, like us having a constitution, there's a limit to the amount of power that the monarch has, that the single leader, single ruler has those on. That also led to the Bill of Rights and development of a cabinet. Okay, and we should know what Bill of Rights is for us, the United States. So the idea of the Bill of Rights was big, because it gave rights to the people on that right there. Okay, all right. If you will, whatever they missed, for sure, go ahead and put like full X number at the top. Write down the total number that they've 100% missed that's up on there. If there's any that need to be looked back on that you think are questionable, how many points or stuff like that, or there's something that's not just a total X, circle those for me, so that way I can just look straight at them. And then other than that, we'll pass those up. I'll take them back in, and we'll be good to go on those. All right, I'm gonna turn this recording off. If you got any questions, you can ask them there.